it is.
Yeah, I saw that there was a woman in Connecticut. She's not a timer or anything, but she posted that, and she was a 1099. I'm not sure what she does, but she's already receiving unemployment.
For California, they opened up the PUA this morning, and as a problem from the website working hard and crashing, it'll amount to somewhere in the mid 13,000s for the 19 weeks.
I don't know if it's like this in other states, but what we found out in Colorado when they just rolled it out last week is that if you have W-2 income of some kind, you have to go and exhaust the W-2 process before the 1099, which of course they didn't tell us 1099s, and it's just something we're figuring out now. So just have your 1099s beware if in case your states have any other issues like that.
That's the same way in California, Josh. They ask a lot of your last 18 months for W-2 information, and they sort of want to force you into UI, unemployment, through an employer. In fact, you have to sort of negatively answer some of the questions. In fact, there's one question that says, are you a 1099 employee? If this is a COVID-19 claim, click no. And it's just horrible programming.
Yeah.
By the government?
Anyone else have anything to add in the
I'll just say that I got an unemployment claim from one of our 1099s this week, and the forms we got don't even fit our circumstance because it's asking questions that as if I'm an employer with a unemployment account, which I of course don't have. So I wrote a bunch of crap in there, and I'm sending it back and see what happens for the poor guy. Hopefully he's okay, but it's on the roll. So,
well, bigger question could be from a timer perspective. Running a timing business, are your timers actually 1099s or are they part-time employees? If they're part-time employees, as they might have to be, then they'd be eligible for PPP. But our timers actually running it correctly?
Well, 1099s are eligible for PPP directly. So they do have that option, certainly. There's going to be, that's one of my wonderments, is some people have people who probably don't qualify under the test as a true independent contractor because there are tests for that. Like, how independent are they? Do they use their own equipment? Do you give them guidance and direction and require what they do, or are they simply free to go on their own? So I'm wondering if there's going to be a back end of this that's negative for folks where they try to figure out, is that an employer? Is that really a 1099 person? Even though they say they're not going to charge your account as a 1099 because you don't have an account.
I was more making the broader observation that perhaps all the 1099 employees, 1099 should actually be part-time employees in the future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, we ran into that, and we're actually going through the process to moving forward, have everyone as a payroll employee. It's going to cost more, but it's really what they are. No one's actually, occasionally they'll work for somebody else, but they generally always work for one company, and thereby they're not a subcontractor.
Even if they work for two companies doing the same thing, if they're not bringing their own equipment, that's a litmus test to it.
No doubt, John. And I think that's going to be a fallout of this, is that they're going to certainly follow. You would think they're going to certainly follow up because they're going to have less to follow up on, and make sure that people are becoming more employer-employee. If you do go in and fill out the 1099 stuff, the PUA in California, there is a job classification of photo-finish photographer. So I was surprised.
Interestingly enough, and this is Brad Hens in Illinois, we got in the PPP in the original, when it first launched, with a small local bank. And they actually sent our stuff back and said we had to include the 1099s initially. So they required our 1096s and everything before we were ever going to get approved for a PPP. Then the second round came after we had already got approved, and the second round came and they said, don't include 1099s now. So they actually included it for our PPP that we were awarded.
It was a mistake by your bank.
Yeah, I realize that now, but they actually sent it back. It was the funny part, because they're like, hey, we need this information. It's supposed to be included.
The photo finish thing that I looked into that a number of years ago, and that's actually for people who like basically touch up photos, not really meant for us.
It's kind of like finding the right insurance for
Exactly.
our stuff too.
Don, from a legal standpoint, are they contractors or part-time employees?
No comment from Don?
No, I just got to find the right screen here, but it's truly factually dependent. There is like basically a 4 or 5 element test that you go through. It's how truly independent are they? They actually get to make their own decisions and decide how they do things, and you're not telling them how to do them. But so for a lot of us, if we have like a manual of procedures, if you have a manual of procedures, if you give them the equipment, you know, if they're not exercising independent discretion, then they may in fact turn out to be employees. And, you know, it gets more expensive because if they're an employee, you know, you don't just pay them, you have to do withholding taxes, creates payroll obligations for you. You have to do your unemployment insurance funding. You have to do your work comp funding. So the answer is it depends, and it's case by case. If you have a guy who comes in and does one event and you just say, look, I want you to make that look pretty over there, you're probably golden, and that's an independent contractor. If you have a manual that says, here's exactly what you're going to do, take my equipment and go do it, then you're probably not an independent contractor. And I think for a lot of people, it's a combination. I mean, you know, I might provide a Finish Links camera, but I'm not providing the computers, the switches, and all sorts of other stuff. So they're providing a lot of their own equipment, and they probably are an independent contractor in that circumstance, because we don't care how they do it. And I mean, if you know, I mean, I'm more links oriented, but you know, there's only, you know, 27 ways to do the same thing in links. I'm not telling them how to do it. I'm telling them to get the results accurate, right? So, so it depends is the answer. I don't know anything about the law, by the way.
Sean,
My experience on that was simply going through an IRS audit on that, and it came out as we failed it from having too many 1099 part-time timers, and had to eventually move everybody over to payroll.
That was my question. So you actually went to W-2 employees with payroll then for your people?
Yeah, we went to 100% W-2 with the exception of people that were photographers that are bringing their own equipment, shooting their own product, PA announcers bringing their own equipment, having their own, deciding whether they want to work or not.
So let me ask you this, if they're certified officials, can that be considered them as a contractor?
Certified official. If they're timing for you, then which job are they doing? Which one are they hired for? I'd probably say if they're paid to be there as a timer, then they're a timer. If they're paid to be there as an official, depends on what is track and field, road races, etc.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, your officials are going to be hired as independent contractors. You don't provide training to them. They're certified or sanctioned by your leagues, whoever or association. So I think that would definitely fall in the independent contractor area.
If I can jump back in, I just want to encourage everybody to review the comments because people are commenting relative to this. It is actually a federal determination by the IRS for the most part in answer to somebody's comment. But you see some of the big groups, Sean over at PT and Rick are saying, you know, we're all W-2. So I think as you get bigger that you may have to go to W-2 employees and you know, then you got wage hour issues and all kinds of other things you have to figure out. So I think our people do better as independent contractors because we don't pay them hourly and they probably make more than they would on an hourly basis.
Some states have stricter rules than the IRS as well. In California, starting the 1st of this year, they basically shut down 1099 like gig economy stuff and Uber. They're trying to get that money. So we switched the majority of our employees at the start of the year to W-2, which is actually helping out in this whole situation, assuming PPP comes through for us. Because there's actually more money for you as a company through PPP if they're W-2.
Has anybody given their money back yet so that other people can have it?
The Lakers.
Yeah, I sent mine back so the Lakers could have it.
I meant timers, yeah.
Hey, going back to a comment that Sean made for related to business options, there was also a referee option for recreation and amusement. Maybe that falls as to what you can pick if you're in California trying to fill out a PAU claim.
And you'll see in the comments, let's see, Sean asked, anyone else use a PEO to deal with their payroll? Must be a no.
I mean, I use QuickBooks or Quicken payroll services, looking at Square One based on somebody else's recommendation from a recent post, which both seem to have pretty good, I mean, they both work pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I asked about the PEO because that's been our biggest issue with the PPP, because in a PEO, we use it to get benefits, our benefits package, and make them more affordable for our staff, but it's because of that, we don't have typical W-3s and 941s, and that's been the biggest issue we've had in our application process, where it gets snagged with multiple banks. Is people know what they are, but they don't know, they keep asking for forms that don't exist because the PEO technically files the taxes on behalf of all of the companies they represent. So that's where we've run into issues with the PPP so far. So I didn't know if anybody else has had good luck getting around that, but apparently not.
Has anyone actually received the PPP money?
Yeah, we've applied first day and have been funded about a week and a half ago.
We got ours about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I got mine in the first round too. I used a local banker and they just pushed it right through. It was amazing.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think the local small banks have had a lot more success than people that have Chase, Bank of America, big banks. Even us use BB&T, Truist, and we struggled because they took the branches out of the picture altogether. I talked to my personal banker and he's like, I've not even seen the form, is what he told me, and that's how far they took branches out of the picture. So I'm sure some of y'all have had, if you've had success, it's probably with a smaller bank.
Got mine today.
Congratulations.
Yay, Julie.
All right, I guess I'll move on. This is the
I
dreaded
have to say I waited on mine because honestly, even though I make some money timing, it's not what I do for a living, and there's other people who need it worse. So you're all welcome.
I have a question on the PPP. It's only good for 2 months, right? So what happens in the case where we're not able to open up within that 2 months? What happens to that money?
You have to spend it on payroll within 60 days,
right?
Receiving it. 75% of it on payroll. Oops, sorry.
So you need to be paying people. You have to sit on their butt.
The whole idea is you bring them back to work instead of them collecting unemployment to get work done, do maintenance. And if you're not going to do that, then give it back. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's what it's for, just to keep them working instead of having to re-onboard them later.
But it's difficult when there's no work. You're just paying them. So some people are making more money on unemployment than they would collecting their wages.
So then maybe PPP is not right for your company.
Yeah, no, I can't. I don't qualify. I don't have any W-2s.
If you don't use it all, you can turn it into a 2-year loan.
Oh, okay.
Like 1%. Yeah.
Yeah.
1%, which is a pretty good loan.
Yeah.
So if you can't use it for all your employees, then that's your option, or give it back.
Does anybody put in for, what's the other, the EID?
EIDL?
Yeah, EIDL. I always call it EIDL.
Anyone get the EIDL?
Yeah.
No.
$1,000.
I got my EIDL loan funded last week.
We got the advance, but we haven't gotten the loan to, like Jenna did.
We applied
Yeah, pretty
for
good
the
advance as
EIDL
well.
loan on March 23rd and took me 12 hours to get through the full form before the site crashed. I then, the next day, the site went away, but my application was accepted before it crashed. On the Wednesday, the 25th, we filed the short form. We received our advance 2.5 weeks ago. The next day, we received an email to open the portal and fill out a little bit more stuff online, verify identity. A week later, we received funding papers to sign the promissory notes and the paperwork. And in 24 hours, we were fully funded. If they give you a range, they give you a maximum they'll allow you. Oh, they give you a range. You can pick anywhere between $1,000 and what you're approved for. You have no payments for 12 months. You have a 30-year payment. Most of the rates I've seen are 3.75%. So they're pretty long-term, and they're pretty significant loans, but you can accept less if you want. And if you get anything over $25,000, you have to essentially sign a promissory note. For anyone who's a majority shareholder in the company, 25% or more, I think it is, basically saying that they can come after any of your privately owned investments, houses, real estate, anything you own worth money, they'll come after if you don't pay the loan.
Are you limited on what you can use that on?
No. Yes. The only thing you're not allowed to use it for is to refinance existing debt.
Does it go against the amount you got for the PPP? Like get deducted?
Totally different. And then the your EIDL, they give you an EIDL advance, which is not part of the loan. It's in addition to the loan. That's totally an advance. It's not have to be paid back. It's $1,000 per employee. So if you have 10 employees, you get 10 grand. If you have 4 employees, you get 4 grand. It's not part of your EIDL, and it's not, you don't have to pay it back. It's basically just a quick advance. This program's been around for years and years and years for disaster recovery. You don't have to pay it back. It's just to kind of keep you from going totally bankrupt while they work on the loan, which generally can take a month to longer in normal times. And they're actually going much faster, I guess, right now.
Did you also put in for PPP too, or?
Yeah, we had already received the PPP before the EIDL.
And which did you find to be easier, better, whatever? What's your take on comparing it?
I bank with a very small local bank. So, I can call the commercial lender's cell phone and talk to him when I have a question, fill out the forms. They submit it for you. They texted me. He literally sent me a text message when we were approved. It took that. My bank was very slow in funding compared to some people. From approval to funding, they have to do it within 10 days. They took the entire 10 days. But some banks were funding in 24 to 48 hours. Yes, they do. So, and then the SBA does the EIDL loan directly through the SBA directly. You don't talk to anyone. It's all online.
Which one? Oh, that thing. Yeah.
So the EIDL loan was basically kind of a mystery. You just get an email from them. It's all done through their website and interface. Getting in touch with your loan officer is next to impossible.
I did see on the SBA site today that the EIDL advance would have to be repaid if you got a PPP loan. Time I've seen that.
It's possible, but it's not in our signature, the paperwork we signed.
So from what I just read, actually just now, because I had this question the other day while signing up at a different bank for PPP, is if you did receive an advance from EIDL, so say you got $1,000 from EIDL, then you need to subtract that from your PPP forgiveness. So if you actually sign up at a bank now for PPP, that's one of the questions is, have you received anything from EIDL? If so, how much? And they take that into account when awarding you any PPP money. So I guess talk to your accountant or whoever to truly know the answer to that, but they are somewhat related.
Same thing in North Carolina. You have to pay back that early loan from the PPP.
We had a couple questions here. Has anyone figured out what is actually forgivable outside of payroll? For instance, space, lease payments, utilities, etc. That comes from Tess. It looks like those are forgivable.
You can. I don't think so. You can. I mean, I read it again yesterday. You can use it for those things, but I don't believe
it's up to like 75%
forgivable.
Payroll, right? It needs to be payroll. The remainder, the 25%.
Payroll, insurance for payroll. You can do it towards payroll costs, what it costs to administer payroll, your insurance fees for payroll. You can use, if you fund a retirement program for your company, you can use it for anything. Like Sean pays his PEO that way. He can use PPP money for any payroll expense, anything related directly to payroll.
Except for federal payroll tax.
State payroll tax is allowed.
Anybody else? We've gotten through one question. This is good. We're moving swiftly. But no, it's really good to hear how people are handling this various. Does anyone international have anything to say? Or did their country do anything for them? I think we had a couple Canadians in here. And no. All right. Moving on to the next minute. You can throw this in the chat. I won't,
Real quick on the PPP, I just got on the Treasury's website, and the overview of the fully forgiven amount, 75% of it must be for payroll. Some of the other areas that are forgivable are, looks like interest on mortgages and rent and utilities. Accurate to anybody else?
Right. Exactly right. You can have 100% of it forgiven if you use 75% payroll, and then the other 25% for rent, utilities, any of those things that you listed.
We've had how many people in this group receive the PPP? Just Jenna?
Sorry.
I don't know. I just think.
I know.
I don't know. Maybe I'm way off here, but get the PPP and then worry about that. It's like, I mean, I hope we have those problems. I hope we're stuck trying to figure out how to use this money appropriately.
Right. Real quick, if you don't care.
Half hour over. These are all the raised timers throughout the country talking about their businesses.
Okay. If you don't care to put in the chat, type in, if you could, how many events you've lost. I'll save this file and I'll try to consolidate some of that information later. But how many events you've lost year to date? Anyone over? I know Don's over 200. I think is what he told me. What it said earlier. Anyone over 200? Sean,
raise it to 300.
300.
Chris.
And we're probably over 500 events. Easy.
All you can do is laugh about it, right? Keep them going insane. Yeah, not nearly that much. But
just reschedule them all next fall over top of each other. There's no problem.
With all the road races that are going on. Yeah. Express 110, 175. There's a bunch in there. Has your entire business shut down to this point? And I don't mean closed, but just like you can't do anything at this point, or have you been able to pivot and create new business, or focus more on businesses that you may have not put as much time into, but you kind of have to now to fill that void? Anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, we've been doing couple races as virtual, getting people to switch over just to keep them in the fold or whatever. So far the response has been real good in terms of numbers. In fact, there's one race coming up this weekend that they have 3 times as many people registered virtually as they've ever had for a physical race, which kind of blew my mind. but you know, it's sort of a stopgap affair, really. It's certainly not, you know, the income that you can charge, or, you know, you can't charge anywhere near as much. There's, you know, little ways you can do it, but it's, you know, nickel and dime as opposed to dollars. But I think there was somebody, I can't remember who, somebody on one webinar I watched last week said at this point, you know, that you're surviving on your margin right now. You know, you're not, you're not making money. You're just trying to stay afloat.
Anyone else want to talk about what they've been doing? We'll go over the virtual events. It's one of the questions on here to see. Sounds like at least for y'all in New York, it's been successful, or in the Northeast, it's been successful. But I'm kind of wondering if that's going to be successful all around the world. So we'll go over that. But has anyone else been able to pivot successfully?
I think the thing that's making me laugh is I'm working just as much. I'm just not actually going out and making money on the weekends, you know? But everyone here is hopeful for fall. I've been really, really busy booking, rescheduling, blah, 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 just not firing up the equipment.
I was going to say, we've dedicated, I mean, a lot of our time, you know, there's summer programming, fall programming, events, because there's, you know, there's nothing through May at minimum, much less, I mean, June's even unlikely at this point. Anyone else before we move on?
Well, for here in Ontario, like, we're still in a state of emergency. Hey. So all my April, May, and June are canceled. Beginning of July is starting to be canceled. And then I've just got races that are starting to cancel for the fall as well, because they don't feel comfortable putting in the effort to try and do a race when we don't know if we'll have races or not, because we can't have any large events. So until our state of emergency is over, we can't do anything. So everything is absolutely at zero.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, and maybe someone else too, is if you've had events in late May, early mid-June, have you done anything to mitigate potential losses if that event comes and it cannot happen? Like, have you adjusted the protocol for shirts and awards and other things like that?
We don't order any, like, I help facilitate bibs, but like I don't order any shirts or any medals or anything with them, like with my race directors. That's not how my business model is set up. I help facilitate stuff with that. But so yeah, so that's been okay. That end, I haven't had to put anything up front, which is good and bad, but.
My event production business is absolutely dead right through to September. And my timing business has had a lot of things rescheduled September, October, November. But I've nothing in the foreseeable future for May, June, July, and August.
Yeah, we're similar here. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and at this point, all of our May and June races have been canceled. I think all but one of our July races have made the call. Most likely all of our August races will be canceled. So hopefully the fall, but the fall races are also saying that they're not sure they'll be allowed to happen.
Are we seeing people registering for our events that are in July and August, or has registration basically stopped while people are figuring out, you know, whether the event's going to go or not? I'm curious.
The only registrations we've seen come in on our side here for the 27 events that we operate and own have been events in January 2021.
I have a race in August that people are still registering for, hoping it's going to go. Luckily, it's typically a small race. It's a very unique type race. and it doesn't allow for a lot of people. So I think they're still hopeful that in a sunny, hot Tucson that it'll go.
That's one of the questions I ask it is, what is the confidence of participants at this moment in time? So people are starting to sign up for August or September things, but not really for June or July things. Because like we have a July 4th calendar that, does pretty good. People aren't signing up for it. I don't think they think it's going to go.
Yeah.
Funny enough, on our triathlons, the longer triathlons, people aren't concerned about whether the event's going to happen or not. They're more concerned about whether they still have to train for the event. It has nothing to do with the money. It has to do with, do I still have to put in the work?
We've got a small triathlon in June, the first weekend in June, and we've just had a few people sign up for it. I guess they're still hopeful that something's going to happen, which actually was really surprising. And honestly, I don't think it will, but the registration's still there and we may have to reschedule. But I was shocked that, several came in the last few days.
Well, and kind of aside from that, like a lot of we all saw a bunch of companies. Some companies did really well with their refund and cancellation policies, and some did horrible. Have y'all changed your refund policies for those upcoming events? Have you offered full refunds so there's no risk in the person signing up, hoping that, that's what we did. And anyways, our summer program, some of our stuff was, no risk, sign up, give you your money back if the event doesn't happen. Or you can't adjust to the changes we have to make to it if we move it from June to July or change the days and times. Have y'all done that as well, or anything like that?
I think people take risk if they're not going to present the event and they don't refund the money. The no refund policy assumes the event's going to run. And so to keep that money, I would suggest from an issue of fairness might not be appropriate, but I think it'll get you into trouble real quick if you take too strident of a view on that. So I think, you can offer a deferment first. And if they don't want it, I think you give the money back. And you see in all kinds of industries doing that haven't historically refunded money. Example, airlines, if the flight doesn't go, you get your money back. You can play the lottery and decide if the flight's going to go or not. Or you can get a voucher if you don't want to play the lottery. So I think people are making a mistake if they're trying too hard to hold on to those funds for an event that is not going to run.
Yeah, well, I found that, and I've heard this in multiple webinars from different companies, is that the main thing is to communicate with the people that have registered and let them know, say, hey, look, we didn't expect this. We're just as pissed off as you are, probably more so, and we're taking a huge financial hit. Here's your options, refund, defer. If the race is canceled, obviously deferment. Maybe you can say you can transfer to another event that we put on. Or, if the race switches to virtual, give them that option to jump over to that. And then the other is, donate the entry fee to a charity. Basically, most of them are first responder or COVID-19 kind of related. And we've had that with a couple races. Some people just don't reply, and we send them multiple emails and we keep copies of it and say, if we don't hear from you by X date, we are assuming that you don't care and we're donating your entry fee. So if they come back, in a month and try to get a charge back, we have a record of multiple emails saying, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And you could say they never responded, and you will win that charge back if you have that kind of paper trail or electronic trail.
I'll go over some of the questions Ann asked. Question, she says, anyone changed their waiver wordings for, for your participatory events?
I'm about to.
Anyone, it's one of the questions anyways.
That assumes an event, of course, Chris, and there aren't any, but
Yeah.
I think we're looking at a series of July track meets I shared with you earlier, and we're looking at a couple of scenarios for those. And so if people come to those, are we going to require a waiver that says, we're only going to do them if we're permitted by the government, of course, but are we going to say to people, there's still risk here and you accept that risk, which is different than the normal risks that you take? I don't know the answer to that, but it's probably not a bad idea to consider. So I think it's a good question.
You put a pandemic clause in your waivers now. Has anyone, in kind of aside to that, with cancellation fees, how do you handle cancellation fees with your clients in terms of, if you're a vendor for a track meet or a road race or whatever? Have you been holding them to the cancellation policies even if the event is far in advance?
Yeah, we told
We've been
people
holding
that.
on to their deposit. So all of our contracts require a deposit, and we've been holding on to them, and we give them an option of rolling it over to 2021. Or we can just do everything that's involved with deferring the event for them, handling the packets, the registration, and whatnot.
Brian, you're trying to get in.
Yeah, we basically just told people if we don't get our cancellation fees, we really won't have a business for next year, because if we don't have a fall cross country season, we don't have very much running. So that's where we would be.
I've done the same thing out here. Our contract's actually pretty strongly worded that they not only owe us the deposit, but the minimum fee if they break the contract within 60 days, actually 90 days. Obviously, we're not going to try and screw everyone over. So the way I've worded everything is that we're going to review everything at the end of this, and our hope is that we can roll over your deposit and forgive your contractual obligation. That way it's as if we're giving them more than we really are. And most of them have been understanding that they know if they want to continue to work with us. So if we're not there and we don't have the money to make it through this, then we both lose.
Was that related to road races or track meets?
Sorry, that's all road races.
And yeah, Brian, are you road races or track meets?
We're at all track meets. So these are schools, so they're really not spending the money, or some of the colleges, they have some extra money, so they kind of, and most of ours are under probably 25 to 40% of the fee, and they kind of understand that if we didn't charge them that, we really wouldn't be able to time their meet next year. So we haven't had a problem, no kickbacks. Maybe one or two schools have asked us a little bit more about it, but everybody else has been pretty good about it. So
if we give back all our deposits, I mean, if we roll our deposits over towards next year, what are we going to get for deposits for next year? Basically, you're going to give up the money now or later, one way or the other. I mean, our deposits are non-refundable, and we're 90-day cancellation, but we are not holding people to it for, events that were canceled, we had ordered chips for, or they had essentially canceled last minute. We worked with them if we didn't go on site, and we gave them back whatever we could, basically, to help them out. But then, for May events that were canceled in March, we were more flexible. And then, we're basically working with our clients, but we're not going to give back the deposit money for our clients. We might actually, in the future, make our deposits bigger and stronger to
Jenna, your point's well taken in connecting with your customer. Like all the webinars say, connect with people, right? And if you're connecting with your customer like you are doing very well, they understand your situation, you work with them. And if that happens, then you're better off in the future with them.
We're working harder now with them, all of them.
Yeah, and I think everybody is. And Jenna, we have a mutual competitor in the timing world in New England that isn't working as well with their competitors. And we just got 4 of their events for next year because of the way they didn't work with them in this situation. So if you're doing the right thing and being true to your customers, then you're going to get great relationships out of it.
Someone wanted me to share with you that many race directors are adding a waiver as well as a must understand form question that states they understand that there are no refunds, that they have to acknowledge that before they submit their payment, trying to help them protect from chargebacks. So just a note for some of y'all as you move forward.
Chargebacks are always a loser. You never win them. It's not going to help you.
Yeah. Oh, that's good advice as well.
As it relates to Chris, as it relates to chargebacks, have any timers felt the effects of a chargeback at all, or is it more through your online registration provider?
Probably just online registration provider for me.
Yeah, can you clarify that question? I'm not sure. If somebody, by the way, has
Yeah.
their mute off and a TV in the background, it's a little bit distracting. But can you clarify the question?
Yeah, this must be in relation to participants signing up for like a road race. That they have a must understand form question is how he phrased it. That states that they understand there are no refunds. Versus burying no refunds in some of the jargon.
Sure, but in reality, I mean, even if you read Run Sign Up, which I think for most of us is probably the dominant platform these days, you know, they say they're doing reserves now because they lose every time there's a challenge on a card, and I think that's reality. Is that I no longer bother to explain that the person's already received the results of an event when I get a credit card charge back. I just give them their money back and then send them a nice email that says, you know, you actually ran the race, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, and they send you the money. So I believe it or not, I've never been stiffed on one, but they get their credit card receipt and don't understand what it is, and so they challenge it, you know, pro forma. So I just don't think we can win that argument. I mean, the credit card companies are going to favor their customer every time. So, I mean, good luck with it. I can understand why you would do it, but I don't think it's going to get you the end result you want.
No, that's why you need to.
I've never won a charge back.
No, you won't. But if you are proactive and offer a refund, and you know, as I said multiple times, offer a refund, and people don't respond, you do have a much better chance of winning, I think, in that case, you know, because
I think in just what's going on with this COVID-19, if you don't give a refund back, you're going to piss people off and they're not going to come back to your events. So it's better just to give them the refund and move on.
Right. But what I'm saying is, you know, you should make it somewhat proactive that they have to ask for that refund.
Oh, absolutely.
And if they don't, screw them, you know?
Yeah. I have my own registration platform, and most of the races that have canceled, I had the race directors email everybody and give them the option to just donate the money for the cause, because everybody's running for the cause anyway. And if you want a refund, we give them the refund back. And 95% of the people just donate their money to the cause.
Yeah,
so giving very, very few dollars back.
Yeah, Run Sign Up, I think, posted something on that. It's not quite 90%. I think the majority of people do ask for a refund, but the number of people that donate was pretty substantial. I think it was, if I had to just, you know, make a ballpark figure, it's 25% roll over to, you know, defer, 25% donate, 50% want their money back. I mean, that's real rough figures, but it's somewhere in that, you know, and that's a national average.
And I've been doing that same thing with the races that have canceled of mine that want their deposit back. I just give them the deposit back. You know, it's not, and my deposit's not that much money, and you know, they don't have any money and they're struggling. So I just kind of cough it up and hope next year's better.
So the next question, there's been some comments about it, talking about, you know, your state or your country, your province, whatever. How far out are they going to allow events in the near future? If you even have guidance, like our city county just came out with a 4-phase plan, and yeah, I mean, we're looking at probably July before we can do something.
Yeah, so I'm in Philadelphia, and most of the races in Philadelphia are run by the Parks and Rec department, and everybody in the Parks and Rec department is reassigned to COVID-19 duties. So you can't even get to the people giving you the permits to do a run. So, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. So we're probably looking in the Philadelphia region, cancellations. I don't even know if the marathons are going to happen this year. And yeah, you can't even get to the people to even know if you have a permit for next year because they're not even in the office.
Yeah, a couple comments are talking about watching Peachtree and see if they're going to go on July 4th, and all the other big 4th of July races. That'll kind of, I'm sure, be.
Now they're done.
People are watching.
If you're thinking about a 4th of July race, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I mean, nothing's going to. The other thing that's going to happen too, and I think we all have to be very wary about, especially on our bigger events, is that the participants aren't going to want to jam themselves in the street with 10,000 other people. They're just not going to want to do that. So, you know, so the really large events are going to not, you know, they're all going to suffer, even if they do happen, which I don't think they will this year. Like
we all do different. We all do different size events. Some of us do much smaller events, but I have 4 events over July 4th, and 2 of them canceled this week. So I assume the other 2 are going to be canceling soon also.
Yeah.
You got to remember Peachtree is also in Georgia.
Yeah, they could just call it a tattoo festival.
A little more progressive there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Moving past this COVID-19.
You saw Texas is reopening on Friday, and part of that was outdoor sports were allowed up to 4-person teams.
Yeah, sports.
Sports.
Team sports.
Team sports.
Doubles tennis.
Yeah, I'm still.
Doubles tennis. Maybe golf.
Like the handball in the schoolyard.
Pickleball and golf, folks.
Texas will start 4-man football pretty soon.
So going to the post office and the bank, I mean, it looks like a regular day traffic-wise already up here near Dallas. So we could possibly have July 4th races.
I like the pickleball and golf option. That's probably why they picked 4, though.
No. If they're your family, it doesn't count.
I mean, we can run some 4x1s, get your relay team together.
4x1s.
Dan Beaudoin, you seeing comments talking about virtual function athletic?
Yeah. Dan, you want to get on there? It seems like y'all had a pretty good first week.
Has anyone used the virtual track function athletic? Yeah, so that launched last week, and there's about 11,200 that jumped on in the last week with that. So good interest there, but obviously, you know, from the
11,200 participants.
Yep. As a timer side, though, trying to see how, you know, we can get our lone local teams to actually use it to, you know, be profitable and, you know, have an entry fee and do stuff like that. That's, you know, right now this is mostly the events that are doing it. They're just setting it up and coaches are letting their athletes compete and everything. So the virtual side.
I ran into a wall with that. I got slapped on the wrist from the county telling me that I can't tell coaches to pass this information on to do a virtual meet. We're going to do one for our middle school championships. And they said they wouldn't allow it because it was instructive. They're telling their athletes they need to go. I was like, no, it's an option. Like, they can do it or they don't do it. Like, I mean, it's no big deal. And they're like, no, they can't pass on that information.
Yeah, it's going to be, state to state, it's going to be so different for the next, you know, few weeks. OSA, they even put out an announcement saying, yes, athletes encouraged to compete virtually, but individually. Coaches, you can't tell them to do it. Coaches, you can share the link with them. But it's something that, you know, it's an option that's there. But
Dan, are you seeing your response on that kind of regional based on, you know, where states were in their season? Like, in other words, like up here in New England, we didn't even start, you know, the first day of outdoor practice was scheduled to be, you know, the 2 days after the, you know, sort of lockdown went into effect. So nobody up here even got going. So it's real hard to get any traction with an outdoor team. Whereas some states, I guess like down south, they were almost into their championships when the plug got pulled. Are you seeing that, that you're getting more response from teams that were kind of mid-season as opposed to guys that hadn't even geared up?
I would say mainly the response right now is individually. There's a little over 500 teams who have added a virtual meet and are doing it with athletes. The coaches have shared the stuff, but most of it is just individual athletes that had accounts. They got the email that they can go compete virtually.
In what regions, Dan?
with that, it's just spread throughout because there's athletes with accounts everywhere. So
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking, people that were in mid-season shape would be a lot more inclined to do it than somebody that really even hadn't started doing workouts.
If it's okay with the moderator, Chris, can you explain the process, how the virtual meet runs? I mean, I don't even actually understand. They videotape their performance, and
I shouldn't do it. Dan obviously should be the one to do it.
that's what I'm saying. If it's okay with Chris, I don't want to, steal the conversation, but I'll admit I haven't taken the time to understand it because I ignore timing right now.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. I'll give him credit. I downloaded it myself. It looks good. Go ahead, Dan.
I'd be concerned as to how the sprinting works because of the discrepancy, but certainly the distance stuff as populated in the field events were very nice.
So what I want to do, I want to be the timer that someone just submitted their evidence video, and they actually had a timer there in Kansas who did fat timing for them. 2 people.
Wow.
They submitted the whole video with the clock, the Identilinks, the Fitness Links camera, and everything. And I was like, hey, if athletes want to pay me, I'll give 5-minute slots for everybody to come out to the track. Just shoot the gun every 5 minutes. And
yeah, we're going to do the same thing probably in June to have some solo time trial type deals. The kids can come out because with us, we got like less than 10% of each team are still training, probably trying to train for either AAU or New Balance that still plans on existing in July. But other than that, most teams like 4 to 5 kids, right? They're still training. So we're hoping to serve those kids, but back to that, I think the app, if you want to dive more into the app.
Do we just put a tip jar on the starting line and they put a tip in and
exactly. So, but yeah, the app is essentially it's a team and athlete
Don't touch the tip for at least 3 days.
5, yeah. Just does it accrue interest? So yeah, the athletes are submitting their photo of any distance stuff is going to be GPS. The whole virtual stuff though, and just like with the road running side, it's, there's an honor system to it. You're not going to get your fat times for the 100 and the 200. You can submit your video evidence along with your results, but it's not going to go in any team records or school records. But I think it's pretty cool to see how many are involved in doing it.
But that's an interesting part you say. So anytime that comes in from a virtual meet's not going to get updated into the database?
It's in the database, but under a virtual flag. So, again, a lot of these athletes, if they are looking to get marks in there for a college coach that's following their system, they're going to see it. They're going to see what they've done. They're going to be able to watch the video, see the GPS stats, but it's not going to come in as records. It'll be flagged as virtual, and you don't have the authenticity of a fat time, but it's still a time.
You guys, the site is going to hold those videos at infinitum?
Yeah. So everything that's there already is there in real time as they post it. It integrates with the rankings and the results, includes their results, and then the host can moderate it as valid, invalid, reject it, or accept it.
Can you take like a percentage versus scholarship if you edit those times a little bit? That'd be a good deal for college coaches that are desperate getting the athletes right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's been an interesting dilemma for some of those college teams. That's why we were interested in doing some of those solo time trials. Is the kids that were wanting to get run in college, they're right on the cusp. And like one kid wants to walk on to UT, and coach told him, "Hey, you just don't have the time." It's like, well, I have 2 meets, and then the whole season got canceled. And he was the state champion indoor, so he was prepped up to, ready to make it. But
so are schools actually giving permission for athletes and potentially timers to go onto their facility and
not here? No, in fact, I got that text today that they're in for the foreseeable future. The county schools will not be available. The private may be the route for private schools.
Yeah, no, I mean, even here in Oregon, they say, yeah, the school is closed, the track is closed to the public. So definitely some of the video, they're supposed to be doing it on the road. There's some states where if they have access to a public track at a park. Here in Oregon, there's a few in Portland, but yeah, it's designed for them to do it off the track. And then later on when the tracks are open, they can do it on the track.
They do it at Nike's campus?
Yeah, there's multiple of those going on for sure.
So Dan, can you elaborate a little bit on your virtual setup? When you said a host can validate results, is a host creating this meet for themselves, or are all these events going through you guys to validate? The reason I ask is I had a commissioner to a local league reach out to us this week to ask if we could set up kind of a virtual championship for their junior high and high school program, and then maybe even include an open kind of an all-comers meet. I was actually just going to run it through Run Sign Up, create a bunch of events. But is that, when you say host an event, can you elaborate a little bit how your process is actually working?
Yeah, so anybody can create a meet just like you would during a track meet. You can do a league dual meet, 2 teams, 10 teams for invite championship. And then the athlete submits their entry. They immediately on the app get the notification to submit the result. Once they've submitted the results with their evidence, the host they just see a whole feed. It's a social system, and they see the result. They can click, accept or reject. And when they reject it, they can include a reason like, lacking in evidence or didn't show the tape measure, etc. So yeah, just a whole feed as if you were on Twitter or Instagram looking at a whole feed of posts. It's a feed of posts that they submitted from the event, and you're able to moderate it yourself.
I saw you approve that virtual shot put.
Yeah, so that is
my pretend shot. Boom. I showed you the tape.
I like the kid that came back, that one of the guys that won, the guy that's measuring them, like, I think it was this one, right?
Has anybody been asked to provide timing equipment in a non-timing environment? I have an office building complex that asked me if I could put mats at the front door so they can track occupancy of people coming in and out of the building. Some of the workers are deemed essential, but the county wants to know how many people are actually in the building, what time they're coming in. I thought it was a novel idea. I got some things to work around, but has anybody been asked to do something like that?
We were joking about that about Home Depot a couple of weeks ago, I think. So that's interesting.
My main concern is power. Is one of my bigger concerns.
I offered it to a grocery store chain. I sent it. They weren't really interested. They'd rather, I guess, have people standing outside counting, but you could put a monitor up, count people in and out pretty easily, counting carts and baskets, or give them something to hold to go in and out pretty easily. And you could have a number on the store, how long everyone was in the store. It's pretty easy work, but getting someone to actually pay for it on the other side is a challenge.
I pitched putting a chip on the back of an ID card, because everybody has an ID card. So put a chip on the back and just coming in, coming out. That's it. Start, finish line setup. I want to do, they want me to do a proof of concept, or they've been pitching about doing a free proof of concept.
Jenna, I love that idea on Home Depot or a grocery store with carts. Put a tag on those carts and get them. And then, I mean, publicity wise, you'd probably get a lot of kudos in the community if you're not using it anyway.
I mean, at that point, just put a clock up and do a grocery cart race inside the store.
I mean, it's pretty easy to get the reads. You're never going to miss a read attached to the front of a grocery cart. You can number all the carts literally with a bib and put a bib on it, and they can go find the person who's been in the store for 4 hours wandering around, and just everyone has to have a cart or a basket. All the baskets and carts are numbered, and they're counting literally how long they've been in. It's pretty easy work, but getting people to pay for it right now is another story.
Well, Home Depot has, they have a counter in there, but I think a lot of that is attached to their actual website, like their infrastructure. So I think from Home Depot aspect, I was taking a look at it. It's actually pretty nifty. They are kind of tracking you in that sense. But I think the hard part is that you're also being told not to carry a basket or a cart if you can help it in grocery stores or anything, because you don't want, at least in New York, they're saying to just bring your own bags and pack your own bags while you're shopping.
California is just the opposite. They're forcing you to leave your bags outside of the building, and they will give you free bags, or they'll put your food back in your cart, which you could then take out and bag yourself in the parking lot.
Interesting. Yeah, they pretty much say not to bag any. Like they've gotten rid of all their baggers in New York. They've pretty much said, carts are to be cleaned. I've seen them clean them a lot more, but it's been a lot of suggestion is to just bring your own bags from the grocery stores.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is not allowing reusable bags. Everyone's using disposable.
Same here in Northern California. The only grocery store I've seen so far that's really been policing well is Trader Joe's. They have a associate or employee at the front door actually sanitizing the baskets and the carts, and then.
Hey, Chris, let's get back to timing here. How about going to these reusable, not reusable things? Talking a little bit about reusable versus disposable chips, where the future is there.
Oh, in terms of the way you're going to handle customers and handing them bibs and retrieving tags and that kind of thing?
Yeah, disposable, reusable. I mean, it's a potentially a longer term run out for this.
Disposable at this time with bibs, so that wouldn't be an issue with us. It would just be changing the process of, or making more PPE available for the volunteers, handing them packets and things like that when we're talking about getting to cross country.
And what about, I don't know, Sean, anything like that with, or Jenna and triathlons with reusable chips that are coming back?
So honestly, I would probably, for our first few triathlons back, we have a triathlon that's not been canceled at the end of May yet in Florida. It'd be interesting to see whether that happens. I think that we'll probably ship them disposable chips and eliminate the touch point and take more equipment down. This time of year, we've got plenty of equipment with nothing else going on, but otherwise, I think we'll probably put a bucket of disinfectant at the end. We won't pull chips off ankles anymore. We'll let them drop them in. We'll probably lose more chips, but we'll let people drop reusable chips into the bucket and, cover it and probably not touch them for 3 days, even in disinfectant, and then clean them again, something like that for reusable chip. And disposable, I don't think you're gonna get people to change from disposable. Event sizes, you can never do big events anymore. But I think what people are gonna do is they're gonna mail chips more. They're gonna, figure out ways to have people pick up chips, dynamic bib assignment more, that you'll just PPE, but people aren't gonna go back at big running races to reusable chips, to buying their own. So I think you mean okay, what if we use reusable chips? People buy their own, they have their own. You never have to step in registration. You can just show up at the race and never have to see anybody if you have a reusable chip.
And that's been talked about for a long time from some of the manufacturers, of having a unique ID chip that exists with you for a long time. And you
comes around, championship yellow chips or whatever they were, the right colors, that was the original thing. People
pay on usage.
That's interesting about the chips, because I actually polled some triathletes couple of years ago and said, hey, if I could speed up your time and you don't have to stand in line and collect your timing chip, would you be willing to buy your own chip that you could have, because I time all the local tries and in New Mexico and all this other stuff? And the response back unanimously was, no, I won't buy my chip, because standing in line is how I visit and catch up with people.
Awesome.
So we're in a different situation where we are probably the largest timer in the country for cross country. We have probably 30,000 shoe tags, and we're cycling through those multiple days a week. We're timing almost every day of the week during cross country. So we need teams to collect them, return them, and at night we need to go and sort through them and get them ready for the next day. So that's going to be an interesting challenge for those cross country timers using Ipeco or Trident to come up with a solution to both keep us safe and to make sure everyone else using them is safe. I'm sure there's going to be concerns from people, but at the same time, I know schools won't be willing to spend thousands of dollars extra on disposable tags. That's an option for us, but to tell the school that your meet's now going to have to pay an extra $5,000 for disposable chips, it may not be an option for them. So that's going to be a fun challenge this fall, assuming we have a season.
See, we're using it. I'm hoping to use this as a reason to push more schools towards disposable, even though for us and, our cross country, high school cross country meets, it's been something most of them have been moving towards anyway. I mean, we're not as Brian, but we do.
I I agree with Sean. It's a way that you can convert them to disposable. They're going to have to, there's a lot of extra expenses with this. They're going to have to eat some of it. It's a great way to convert to disposable. Ship them in advance too.
There's going to be a vaccine eventually, and this is just going to magically disappear. So,
yeah, I mean, have y'all tried to mitigate your cost for the fall already? Have you already started to reach out to your teams and see kind of, any participation numbers, anything like that? I sent out that questionnaire today, actually, to a bunch of our teams. How many you plan on having next fall, that kind of thing.
Challenge I'm having out here is a lot of my postponed races are now looking for race dates in the fall on weekends that I already have of other events. And so I've been trying to tell them, you're going to be in a position where if you would have had, say, 500 racers, participants in your spring event, you're probably going to get half that number because there's 5 other events happening that weekend now, either that were already had those dates year over year, or other races like yourself that are just pushing to postpone. And I'm only, unlike a lot of the folks in here, I'm one person. My timing company is me. So I don't have other timers that I can throw at it unless I ask Aaron Ford to start timing my races, which I really, really don't want to do, Aaron.
Oh, what? Really?
Sorry, buddy.
Hey, Frank, I'll come up to there also. I'm open.
Frank. Yo, Frankie, nice shirt you're wearing.
Is
that from one of my races?
From media.
Looking good in it.
So yeah, that's my challenge right now is I can't find, it's very difficult for me out here to find, I have yet to find a good second timer out here. So try to leverage partnerships where I can with Aaron and Chris Morgan, but that's my bigger challenge is just trying to cram 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And of course that affects my revenue number because my pricing is I have a per runner pricing component. So even something's better than nothing. Don't get me wrong. I'll take a 300-person race over nothing, 400, 500, whatever. But it's a challenge I'm facing right now up here.
Anyone else? All right, real quick on the virtual events. I think we talked about some parameters. Are they worth it? But do you see, are they worth it, and how long do you think they're viable?
So we kind of got lucky in the fact that we've had a virtual program for a couple of years now. So this isn't like a reactionary thing for us. And most of our stuff is through Strava, and we offer it for free. And I get that's not a model sustainable for anybody. But it does keep our clientele engaged. So I think as far as it goes, is I think this is for us a sustainable model until we're actually able to have events again. We've done a huge amount on the refund, deferment. We have a loyalty program, so offering a race for every race that they've gotten that it's gone canceled. But having the virtual aspect has definitely helped us keep our clientele engaged with us. And I think for us, I'm seeing it as a sustainable model until we can actually throw an event again.
Well, I'll jump in here. Some of you may know me, Eric Cohn from Run Sign Up. We are actually doing phenomenal with virtual races. We're pushing most of our race organizations and asking timers to seriously consider it. The reason mostly is that we actually see it as a different demographic. Last year, we had a virtual race that had over 18,000 people, and that demographic is not the same that is a traditional road racer that's going to show up and do a 5K or a 10K every weekend. Instead, they enjoy getting the swag. They're willing to pay the $30 or $50 to get that swag. They can do the actual event whenever they want and claim that they did an event. You do get some crossover in the current demographic of road race participants that will do virtual because there's no supply, literally no supply. You cannot do a race right now. So there's a fair amount of people that can convert a traditional road race to do a virtual race, and they will get 30, 50% of their participants just to buy in. And as timers, you guys have an opportunity in my eyes to offer help to your race organizations, or if you are an event management company, to generate at least a little bit of revenue and a little bit of cash flow to help you make it through at least the next couple of months until we see an opening of smaller races happening or even bigger races happening. So that's why we've been pretty proactive in telling you, as an organization, you can make money. The case in point is today we had 40 of the top races that generated revenue on our platform were all virtual. We did not have a single road race in the top 40 races with registrations. So, and we have roughly 20 top 100 road races. So when you're looking at, a Philadelphia Marathon or a Broad Street Run or Pat's Run, all these large organizations and large races are not generating a heck of a lot of revenue right now. Philly Marathon's doing okay, but again, they're still not competing with a virtual race that is just thrown up. So my point to you as a group would be, don't push it aside, but instead you might have to embrace it. It will allow you to generate some revenue if you can help your organizations over the next few months. And then you can actually embrace it further long-term as another way to generate revenue over the coming years. Much like New York Roadrunners and a handful of other organizations that have been doing road race or virtual races for 3, 4, 5 years, we're seeing those organizations, once they figure out that, hey, there's good money in it, there's not a lot of work, they actually continue to do it for years.
Eric, with the mic drop, anyone else?
Eric, from the Run Sign Up perspective, how have you seen timers stay relevant in the virtual world?
So some timers are actually event operators. They'll put on their own virtual race events, if you will, and they'll generate 3, 5, 700, 1,000, some of them all the way up to 3,000 to 5,000 people. We went from having one virtual event that was 18,000 people last year to now we have many that are in the 10 to 20,000 range. So the way that timers become relevant is a lot of you have hundreds of organizations. They have a built-in user base. You go back to them and go, listen, I can help you put on a virtual race. I need to make a little bit of money. My average cost is, you guys average, let's say $3 a head. That's just rounding, right? So you gotta build in a package that you guys are gonna be comfortable with, helping them implement a virtual race, take care of their results. You may offer, like I've seen, a la carte. I'll do the fulfillment. I'll help you get your medals and shirts and ship them out. It's really up to you guys as organizations to decide what you can take on and what you're willing to do. But again, if you're at zero on the revenue side, this is an opportunity in my eyes. Did that answer your question, John?
Yes, certainly. I guess I'd dive a little bit deeper on terms of, I think there's a lot of people that are very technical on this side. From the timer perspective, how has the timer, have you seen some of the Run Sign Up clients as timer clients stay relevant in the virtual, because a virtual, like an event director can do a virtual thing without a timer?
Sure. So there are a lot of event directors that are coming directly to us and going, hey, we want to switch to virtual. There's a huge amount that are not engaged in the Run Sign Up platform. Timers come to us, set up the registration, set up. So in that same vein, what's to stop a timer to go, hey, we recommend setting up a virtual and a physical race for this fall. If you don't do that and you just go, hey, we're going to put on a physical, and that demand, as everyone is talking about, drops off to 20%, they're going to get 3 weeks out from the race and they're going to cancel. But if you do a virtual and now all of a sudden they see 200-300 people there, you can give them the option. You can give them an option to transfer into the physical or transfer from the physical to the virtual, and that allows you to at least help them in that vein. And you can charge them a fee, more or less, a timing fee, to help them with registration, to help them with fulfillment, to help them with the results. If you do RaceJoy, you can do the RaceJoy side as well. There's a lot of different ways. Again, every timer is a little different from what I've seen, but that gives you a rough idea of what we've seen.
Could could there potentially be a slippery slope here where races that we would have timed in person decide, hey, this virtual thing was great. Let's work for us. No volunteers. We don't have to go get a park permit. And then they decide ultimately to move their entire event to a virtual platform for the next 5 years. I mean, I would say that while it's a great idea in the short term, I would not make nowhere near as much revenue doing a virtual race that I would have physical timing, you know, being there on site with my crew. From the run score, from the run sign up side, do you guys have any? I mean, I guess you're going to get your registration money one way or the other, but is there any fear that some of the events would move to a permanent virtual race platform?
Then other races will come back in the physical form.
That's the hope, right?
Well, it comes back to economics. So there's going to be a supply and demand, and what will happen, at least for short term, is there's literally no supply of physical races. They're all being moved, right? So everyone's just kicking that can down the road. Hey, you had mentioned, hey, this fall is just slammed. Well, what happens if the fall doesn't go on, right? Now all of a sudden, guess what happens? The spring is going to be really overwhelmed because you're going to have all the fall races trying to move to the spring or the winter or whatever. So you just have this rolling. And what will end up happening, I believe, is over the short term of next 6 months, if this lags, then you're going to actually have some of those smaller race operations go, hey, we're just not going to put on the race until we know for sure. And that's where a virtual race does allow you to generate a little bit of revenue from those organizations and offset the fact that they wouldn't even go on. So you have the choice of going, hey, we're going to try and drive a little bit of revenue with virtuals, or we're just going to let those smaller organizations sort of not happen anymore. And then what ends up happening is I believe when the industry does open up and you do have Justin at New York putting on all of his awesome races, and you do have all these large events happening, then the smaller ones are going to come climbing back, because I think there's going to be a pretty big demand built up from the lack of supply right now.
One of the things that we did to stay relevant and stay in front of our athletes is we teamed up with a local gym, and we're offering stretch classes 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for 30 minutes, because everybody is on the street running. And we're not charging for it. It's something for free, because our theory is these runners have supported us for 18 years, and it's high time that we give something back to them. In our stance with virtual, we've always had a virtual element, because we are such a huge military city that there's always one family member who's racing overseas somewhere and sharing their pictures and their times on our Facebook page, along with their family who raced in our event, sharing the pictures and their times, and it just helps them have a feel of togetherness. So we have had that, and it was very simple for us to make the leap over to the virtual, because we already had virtual categories set up in the races that we've had to cancel, postpone, make virtual. But keeping your name in front of everyone by teaming up with the gym and doing just a 30-minute stretch class with one of the trainers is a great way to give back to the community. You're not going to make anything, but they feel like they're getting something for loyalty.
Else, there's been some good comments, by the way, if y'all been following along the group chat. So I don't know if y'all want to go back and watch that, but it seems like a lot of us are, it's interesting to see the companies that have virtual concept already, they're just able to expand that, and the ones that are just doing track timing and that's all they're doing, having to pivot and do some different stuff. So it's been interesting to hear that. I appreciate Eric going through the run sign up stuff. Go look at that again. Now that we do a lot of track meets, so run sign up hasn't been necessarily a thing we've needed to dedicate much time to. But with the virtual world, I'm probably going to get back into it.
My point actually was not about run sign up alone. Just so there's people out here that might be using Race Roster. You could be using anything. My point is very much, as an industry, we need timers to exist. On the other side of this, we want you all to be successful in the short term. We are very supportive of all of you for a reason. We know that when the large events and even small events happen, and you have to have a timer. Otherwise, the event is just a fun run, and that's when I believe the slippery slope really happens. where you do have a drop off in participation and you do have it as just another event that's a festival. So to me, it is imperative to have you guys have success in the short term. So if you guys have questions or ideas and you want to chat some more, you know, you can reach out to myself. You can reach out to just about anyone at Run Sign Up. Will help you. This isn't about Run Sign Up. It's about the industry.
Anyone else have anything before we go? I know everybody's about ready to go. We've been on here for about an hour and a half, but we'll definitely have to do this again. This has been good.
Just wanted to say thanks, Chris, for putting this together. It's been super helpful to listen and ask these questions and hear some of this feedback. So thank you.
I just set up the meeting. That's it. Y'all are the ones that bring the information.
Let's do this again soon.
We need friends. We can't talk to our friends next door. We can talk to them online.
Happy hour next time. Can we bring drinks?
My friends next door don't understand what I do for a living.
Yeah, my in-laws don't either.
So if there's specific questions that you guys would like covered by a lawyer, banker, anything like that, you guys can send them our way. We have contacts all over the place that we'd be willing to reach out to and actually ask those questions and try and either get them on a call like this or to at least get their written answers and put them in front of you guys.
Don wants your email if you don't care to pop that in the chat. All right. Well, anyone have anything else before we head out?
Yeah, real quick. Eric, last week, Chris mentioned you guys were working on a Run Anywhere feature within RaceJoy. When is that going to go live?
Just like you, yeah.
So I've been told any day now. It could be maybe middle of next month is the time frame that I'm expecting. I know that James is our lead guy, James Harris, and he has it on his phone. So he's been testing it. I would expect that to roll out pretty soon, though.
So yeah, we're in the middle of where the like.
And some other virtual stuff that we are working on is aggregate scoring, so that if you had laps or you want to do one of our larger races came to us, they have thousands of participants already, and it's at 10,000 or 1,000K across Tennessee. So they want to be able to do log miles across Tennessee virtually. So
6 seasons you can watch.
So aggregate, like you could do a run one day, a run another day, and then add them together. Like a triathlon, you could do one run, one swim, one bike, or duathlon and add it.
Yes. So the idea is actually going to be teams. It could be aggregate for triathlon. It could be relays. There's all sorts of ways to apply the aggregate scoring. It could be miles or time is what I believe we're working on. So you can go in and collect total time or collect total miles. So the idea may be that you want to do like a 12-hour run in total miles, and we would just collect, you know, how many miles they did.
What's the time frame you can do it over? Like a month, a week?
I don't think there's going to be a limit, but I'm not 100% sure. I know we're still in development on that one feature.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Along those lines, real quick, RTRT is building a live GPS module within their app. So look for that too. That should be coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm sorry?
It's gorgeous.
Who was that, Raul?
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
The RTRT.me.
Yeah, it's going to be basically also you can choose to virtually put yourself on the actual course or when you're running, you can see either one.
Yeah.
Hi, Hamish.
He says, roar. They also, I mean, those who use RTRT, they have a whole lot of other stuff coming out soon, which is really nice to see. A lot of map specific stuff. So look out for that.
A lot of Strava segments.
Heat mapping is one of the things that they have going on, but yeah, we just got to peek at their mapping stuff. It's really kind of cool going forward.
Josh asks, is that a replication of Race Director lap race functionality or side conversation? I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure how they're developing right now. I believe it's actually just going to be a part of the Run Sign Up platform. So it's going to be all new code. And my guess is that it would be a little bit different than RD.
Anybody else? Well, I'll save this. I'll upload it to YouTube and then post it for the people who couldn't be on. And yeah, we'll have to do this again. Anybody else?
Yeah,
before we head
thanks
out?
for putting it on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Y'all have a good night. All right. Kicking y'all out now.
Cheers, everybody. Happy hour.
Happy hour and a half. Yeah.